All right, everybody, welcome to this next episode. One of the most interesting episodes yet, I'm quite sure, of Redneck Redemption.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a little pre-warning. This may be the noisiest episode that we've had yet because we're sitting in a room with Debbie and I, Drew and Marlana, and we have 3 grandsons in the room as well.
Yes, sir.
And my daughter Hannah is here, and our daughter-in-law Scarlett is here. So in a little bit, you may hear Scarlett chime in. A couple episodes back, we mentioned that we were probably going to do one with our wives, and which I don't know. Some people think that's risky.
You don't think so?
But I think you think people think that. But I think it's going to be fun. So
Yeah.
We started telling some stories a couple weeks ago that we just stopped ourselves because I realized that we're not really the ones qualified to tell the stories because we weren't there to see the whole story.
No.
This is the first time we've tried to do
Hey, Dad.
more than one at a time. Yes, sir.
We should probably let them introduce themselves.
Oh, that's a great idea. All right, so obviously, yeah, we can see how. So I'm Todd, and
Well, they all know us. Let's
Well,
talk
yeah.
about the guest.
duh, y'all go ahead and introduce yourself then.
I'm Marlana, Drew's wife.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Is it kind
Talk
of
to
weird?
the mic, yeah.
Oh, you'll get used to
Let
it.
me redo that. I'm Marlana, Drew's wife.
Yeah, and she's kind of weird. She said so.
Yeah.
With
That
it.
is not what I said.
Debbie, didn't she not say I'm kind of weird anyway? Oh, Drew's kind of weird.
That's kind of weird.
I got you. Oh, that's kind of weird. Okay, and
I'm Debbie.
Yeah.
that's enough said right there. And Debbie is my wife.
She
I'll
didn't
make
want to
that-
admit it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Make that clarification. And from across the table, we have to speak up. This is
I'm Scarlett, Peter's wife.
so Peter's not here. He
Yeah.
doesn't get to defend himself or his
Nope.
stories.
Yeah. So
So
we get to tell us however we want
yeah,
to.
right. If Scarlett jumps in a minute, she gives it'll be one-sided from her point of view.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Well, somebody had asked us before, how in the world does your wives put up with you?
I still hadn't figured it out.
Yeah. Do we want
Lots
to?
of prayer.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we want to even ask that question right now? But it's a lot of fun, though, isn't it? Oh, come on!
We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into here.
I think it's fun.
Yeah. Okay, so every time we tell a story, there's always a part to the story that you didn't get to hear.
Yeah.
And there's always, there's parts of the stories that we like to tell a story a certain way, and then sometimes I'll be telling a story, and then later somebody would say that is not how that happened.
Well, I think Mom says it best. Normally she's talking about marital counseling when she says this, but there's 3 sides to every story.
Right?
There's his version, her version, and what actually happened. Now, the stories we're about to get into, there are anywhere between 4 and 8 versions of the story, which would be all 7 of the individuals or 3 individuals who are part of the story and what actually happened. And generally speaking, Mom's is closer to what actually happened.
What did you say? Say that again. I didn't understand all that you said.
He
Generally
said
speaking, what?
Mom's version is the one that's closest to what actually happened.
Closest to what actually
There-
happened.
There
Son,
are
what are you saying?
there are exceptions to that rule.
What
but
are you saying about?
I think he's saying that Dad's version's usually wrong.
No, listen. He didn't just. He said Mom's version is the most accurate. He didn't say mine and Mom's version. He said, or his and Mom's version. He just said Mom's version.
yeah, that's what I said.
Well, we knew who he was
Yeah,
talking
okay.
about.
All right. Okay, so here's what we do know. We do know that we've been super blessed to have the wives that we have, and because nobody else would put up with us but them, because God designed them for us and us for them. We really believe that, and so I mean that's obviously an important, crucial thing. Plus, on top of that, they're more committed to Him than they are to us, and that's what makes them stay with us.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, ideally, that's how it's supposed to work anyway, but hopefully
Yeah.
those things work hand in hand. Anyhow, all right, so, son, last week we were talking about, we got to telling some stories about, we were talking about fall, or a couple of weeks, whenever that was. We were talking about
Yeah.
falls and got telling different stories, and you started talking about Jonathan's trips to the emergency room, that series of trips to the emergency room.
Yeah, a series is a good way to put it. They knew him by name at the front desk. So
Yeah. Like, Debbie, how many times did we go to the emergency room? And
Oh, I don't know.
it was,
4 or 5.
all clumped together, and your mom will have to correct me on this because I was pretty young at the time, but I want to say it was all clumped together within a 6-month time frame.
2 or 3 months.
Okay, 2 or 3 month period.
yeah. Well, I just remember the last time we walked into the emergency room with Jonathan. Debbie and I came in with Jonathan, and I think, of course, it might have been the same weekend when James had the hair around his finger.
No.
It was a different time. I just remember us walking in, and the nurse behind the desk looked at us and said, "Well, there's Jonathan." She recognized him, called him by first name at the emergency room at our local hospital. So,
Which we'll get Lena on the handle here in a little bit to tell some stories, but I think there's only one person that I know that has Jonathan topped, and that's her baby sister Hannah.
oh yeah.
Which they knew her social security number and all her info when they walked in the ER.
Yeah, I remember when Lena's sister Hannah was little. Yeah, well, in particular the dresser deal, but anyhow. Okay, so the story we started telling the other day was about how Jonathan fell and ended up in the emergency room, and then we started telling the story about him eating this mushroom, and I couldn't remember the details exactly. And Drew was kind of going. I said, "Wait a minute, maybe we need to have our wives on." And we both looked at each other like, "Yeah, wait a minute." But anyway, we just thought it'd be fun. But so here's basically what happened. All I remember on that one. Okay, which one happened first? You were just deciphering this a minute ago.
He dislocated his collarbone.
First.
Okay, first he dislocated his collarbone, and you have to refresh my memory on that one. I think he jumped out of we had a little club treehouse that we
We
made
was
for
trying to go over that little rickety bridge that you made, and he fell off.
rickety bridge I made.
You know, the bridge.
Oh
that
yeah,
you
it was
make
intended to be rickety. It's supposed to move. It's a swinging bridge, a swinging
with
bridge.
no sides.
Well, I mean, you know,
It had rope sides.
You gotta live a little. I don't think it had rope sides.
No, it had. Oh, okay. Maybe I'm wrong.
Remember,
So the size
mom's
of like
version's
that.
always right.
Yeah, you already said mom's version. Don't be arguing with your mother, son. Mom's version's always the most correct one.
Oh boy, I backed
so
myself in the
I
corner.
thought he jumped out of the tree. He fell off the little rope swing, the rope bridge. Okay, so I made this little bridge. I think it was with ropes or chain or something. No, cable. It's a piece of cable.
It was a piece of cable with 2x6s.
Yeah, with 2x6. Kind of a swag between two treehouse sort of playhouses I built for him. And so anyway, he dives off of that, dislocates his collarbone. I probably was not home at that moment. Was I home that time?
Yes, you were out working in your building.
Oh, okay.
And
So-
I want to say that you and I were both working in the building in the mushroom occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you and I were in your shop doing something. I don't remember what.
Probably
When
building Thomas the train tracks or something.
Oh yeah, probably. And Jonathan walked around the corner and said, "This is a good donut."
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Had
that's
little
what.
white flakes all over his mouth.
Yeah, so the dislocated collarbone jumping out of the thing. Well, then did he go to the emergency room on that one?
I don't.
No, I
know.
don't think we took him to the
don't think
emergency
he-
room on that one.
I think you took him to Colum and Carney for that one.
Yeah. But then, whenever he ate the mushroom,
Mhm.
well, yeah, he came with it and he said, "Look at this donut," and he thought it was a cinnamon donut. I think he'd seen it growing out in the backyard, thought it was a cinnamon donut.
Which, growing up, we didn't have donuts very often. It was a rare occurrence. Normally, if we had donuts, Dad would go preach at a place in the town that we lived in called Cooper Tire, and they would provide donuts on Sunday mornings. And what? Anyway, and Dad would bring donuts from Cooper Tire, and we'd eat those before church. Or on occasion, Mom would make them, but she wasn't a fan of making donuts, so we didn't get them very often.
Well, you know, yeah.
Well, she liked making donuts until one of the boys told her it looked like something that came out of the rear end of a cow or something.
No, that was
The hot dogs.
that was the homemade hot dogs.
That was
The only
homemade
fail.
hot dogs, yeah.
Those were bad. Those look like more like what a dog would.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
were bad. Yeah,
Those were bad.
she was trying to make. Debbie's really good at making. She's trying to make everything homemade. Hey, she made those Hostess cupcakes. Didn't you make those? Not Hostess cupcakes. Ding dongs.
Oh, I made those too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh,
So
well,
what
I
do you
mean,
call those recipes that you get that are
Copycat
the
recipes.
copycat recipes? Yeah, she'd make all that kind of stuff.
I made
man.
the
Well,
little swirls on the
okay.
top of the cupcake.
Yeah, she even made the swirls on top, look just like a Hostess, but it was better.
I'm just saying, I lived in that house for 20 years pretty much, and I ate there's two things that I wouldn't eat that she cooked. One of them was the hot dogs, and it had nothing to do with how they tasted. I just couldn't get over how they
That's
looked.
bad. Those were bad.
I'm telling you.
But I
And
didn't have the right tools, mind you. If I would have had a good sausage stuffer, I could have
Oh,
done it.
well,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
We were trying to do it. I actually helped you. We tried to do it by
did it by
hand.
hand.
Yeah, it was a nightmare, but we did it.
They
And
looked
then
good until I cooked them.
and the other one was the time you made animal crackers, and you. I don't remember if you wrote down or misread or what you replaced the salt with the sugar. I wouldn't eat those either. But that's, in my book, 20 years of eating your food, and the only two things I wouldn't eat.
Probably dealing with kids and toddlers and babies at the same time.
Yeah. But anyway, back
yeah.
to the story.
What story were we telling?
No, mushroom.
We're jumping around.
The
I
donut.
I can't
The
get over the hot
mushroom.
dog thing. I'm just visualizing them hot dogs. If you can't imagine what they look like, just imagine what they look like.
Yeah.
They look like a real hot dog until what did you bake them in the oven or something?
No, I boiled them.
Yeah.
Boiled them? Oh my gosh, and they shriveled up, looked exactly like something a dog left in the house. And I'm going to tell you,
They were bad.
and nobody. I said, well, what do they taste like?
You tasted them.
I know. That's what I was about to say. I said, well, what do they taste like? And everybody's like, we're not eating anything that looks like that. We're waiting on you, Dad. We knew you'd eat it. Anyway.
Anybody that knows Todd knows he'll eat anything.
Yes.
Well, I'll try anything twice, but anyway. So, what in the world? How did we?
So anyway, back
Switches on in
to
a minute.
Donuts.
we rarely got donuts at the house, and Jonathan comes around the corner. Me and Dad are out, and he had a little shop that he built, and we were out there working at it. Jonathan comes up there. I guess he was on the porch when he said, "This is a good donut." And I remember looking at you, and you looked at me like,
I want a donut. Where's
Yeah.
donuts?
and then it dawned on us, we don't have donuts. And we turned around, and that's it. Dad said, and I quote, he said, "Got the blues. What are you eating?"
That's our Christian cuss word right there.
Yeah,
The
that's-
blues.
Courtesy of great grandpa
Yeah,
Reed.
I will never forget the first time Grandpa did that. I never heard him say any swear word at all, but a red wall stung him while he was grilling steaks at a family deal. And man, when that red wall popped him, he turned, "Got the blues." I like to have a stroke, man. But what was he fixing to say?
But anyway, and then from there, I let Mom and Dad kind of run this story.
Okay,
'cause I don't remember
so when
much.
we figured out that he ate mushroom, we didn't we didn't go to the emergency room that time,
No,
did we?
you called somebody you knew.
Yeah, I called
you
him.
went
And sent
next.
him a
No,
picture.
you went next door to Miss Ward's house.
Well, that's a good possibility.
I know it's a possibility because I followed you over there. Come think of it.
Okay.
Because I remember she had that little. You walked in their living room, and then she had that little door off the back room where she had all of her gardening and
Yeah.
gardening books and everything. And I remember her coming out of there and going, "Brother Todd."
Well, so the consensus was that this mushroom he ate was not a poisonous mushroom, but it was the kind that people really like to find out in the field.
No,
Oh,
Miss.
no. Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah.
I had it
'Cause
backwards.
She came out of the room and she told you, "Brother Todd, I have some bad news." And you said, "What is it, Miss Ward?" And she said, "There are two kind of mushrooms that are native to this part of Arkansas, and they look just alike. And one of them is deathly poisonous, and the other one people use to get high."
But they brew a tea out of.
Yeah, they brew
Oh.
a tea out of it, and it makes them hallucinate, right?
No, okay, well,
Yeah, so at any rate, I can't remember the details in there. So if we thought it might have been poisonous, but we didn't go to the emergency room?
you went to the emergency room, got the mushroom tested.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, but then it was, I know this one was the next day. Go ahead.
What the doctor told you is, fortunately, I have good news and I have bad news. And you said, "What's the good news?" He said, "It's not the kind that you die from. But it is the kind that you will hallucinate." So the bad news is that he could possibly get very sick within 24 hours and have some really wild dreams tonight.
So, needless to say, Jonathan was tripping the rest of the day. And
then the next
in rare
day,
form. So it was the next day when
he was
went,
on the trampoline and thought he was Superman because he was hallucinating. And he flew off the trampoline and broke his foot.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So Debbie has to take him. That you took him to Colin Carney
I
that
took
time.
him to the doctor's office. And I was sitting in front of the insurance. Because at Coleman Carney, you have to go to the insurance people first, and then you go to the doctor. So I was sitting with Jonathan because he couldn't walk, so I had to hold him. He was sitting in my lap, facing me at the 24-hour mark, and he threw up all over me while I'm sitting there talking to the insurance lady. And she just stares at me. She didn't offer me anything to clean it up. She just looked at me and said, "Oh." So I'm digging in the diaper bag trying to find something.
How old was Jonathan?
Maybe 3.
Yeah, close to that.
Probably 2.5, 3.
Two and a half.
Two and a
That'd be
half.
about 2.5.
About 2.5. So I'm sitting there, and the only thing I could find was a wet wipe. And I had a blue shirt on, so I'm wiping up vomit off of my shirt with a wet wipe. And then I have white fuzz all over me. So she says, "Okay, now you got to go down to the doctor and get an x-ray." So I'm carrying Jonathan down the hall with white fuzz all over me. And everybody that passes me smiles, and as they go past me, they have this horrible look on their face and just kind of snarl up their nose at me because I smell like vomit walking down the hall.
Yeah, so that's the 24 hours after. The 24 hours after. Yeah, so now, and he ended up, by the way, getting his x-ray that day, and his foot was broken.
Mm-hmm. Just a hairline fracture.
Just a hairline fracture, so yeah, so he didn't have to be in a cast or anything.
They just
but,
put a splint or something.
yeah,
on
all
it.
that stuff all in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Man, yeah, and then he ended up. How long after that was it when he ended up busted his head open?
Maybe a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
That's when they recognized him by name.
Yeah, so we walk in that time. They recognize him by name. Oh, look, here comes Jonathan. Yeah. That time he fell. Well, no, the kids were playing in the hall, and I think one certain sibling might have tripped him or something.
That is the general
Quote, unquote,
consistent.
accident.
Yeah.
So he hit his head on the outside corner, kind of where the two walls come together, and it's sheetrock walls, but there's a metal strip underneath the paint there. He just lands with his head in split his head like forehead. You could see his skull. Just
It
about
was pretty bad.
About 3/4, about an inch long, right there in the center of his forehead, right below his hairline.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, he gets and it didn't hardly bleed. That was the weird thing. I'm like, I can see your skull, dude, and there's not hardly any blood coming out of there.
For some reason, I always took them to the doctor, but you always took them to the emergency room.
That is right. If anything happened, you're always the one taking them to the doctor, but I ended up being the one taking them to the emergency room. So when as a matter of fact, Drew and I told the story last time about James with that trip to the emergency room when the nurse freaked out on us and all that.
I actually went with you on that time.
Well, so anyway, this time Jonathan splits his head open. We get to the emergency room, and it's the first time they'd ever put one of our kids back together with glue. They use that derma glue stuff, it's like super glue, but it's made for skin. Really, I think it's just super glue. It just has a different sticker on it. It says derma glue. They charge more for it that way. But anyway,
well, there are a few different ingredients. It's supposed to be. I don't know all the scientific terms for it, but it's not supposed to be toxic for you.
I guess.
Your blood
So is super glue toxic for you, son? Have you ever glued yourself back together when you cut yourself with super glue?
A lot of times, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. It works good too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, after you get over the initial because it does burn like the Dickens. But anyway,
that's not supposed to be good for you.
Pretty bad, no. But anyway. So that day when they glued his head back together, I can't remember. Do you remember that doctor's name? No, we shouldn't say it out loud, even if we remembered his name. We're in the emergency room, and this doc, I'm holding Jonathan from behind. This doctor has dermaglued him, and with his thumbs, he's holding this together so that it sticks, And then after a minute, this doctor, he keeps holding it, and he looks at me and said, "Mr. Reed?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I'm afraid you're about to be upset with me." He said, "But your son's going to be more upset with me." I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because I just glued both of my thumbs to your son's head." And I thought, man, surely you're kidding. But surely he was not. And so
I honestly think that stuff works better than super glue.
Oh, man. Apparently it does. Because when he pulled his thumbs off of that dude's, off of Jonathan's head, man, skin and all came off. And I think the thumbprint parts were worse than the cut we had going on. Was as far as the recovery, the cut wouldn't have been that obvious had it not been for the two big honking thumb spots ripped flesh off his. So when the doc pulled the pulled his thumbs off of Jonathan's forehead. Naturally, it pulled the cut back apart, and so he said, "We're gonna have to glue him back together again. You're gonna have to hold him." I've been holding him for anyway. Bless his heart, but he survived. We all survived.
If that doctor if there had been a biometric scan using that doctor's thumbprint, you could have put Jonathan's head right up to it for either one.
It was there for years.
Oh yeah, long time. You could see where that dude's thumbs pull that skin off his forehead. So let it be a lesson for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know you can do all kind of stuff with super glue. I did not know this, but I was messing with that stuff one time, and I got it on. This doesn't sound like it ought to be possible, but I got it on my thumb, and I thought, you know how when you get that stuff on you, it gets hard and it's aggravating. I mean, it takes forever to peel off. And so I got it all over my thumb, and I thought, I ain't letting this get hard, so I stuck it in my mouth. And
super glue dries wet.
I did not know that. Man, I'm just sucking my tongue. They said, "What are you doing?" I said, I was super gluing my thumb to my tongue. Anyway, I'm telling you, it's free entertainment to live at our house.
Yeah, I just asked Josh Campbell, a rich person.
Yeah.
Or Alex Barron, for that matter.
Man, this is like the second or third time in a row you brought up all three of those guys' names in one of these episodes.
Yeah. I mean, they were around quite frequently when I was younger.
Well, you know, Alex Barron was with us that time. We mentioned a while ago when James went to the emergency room. James is our youngest son, by the way. For those of you that are listening, we have five kids:
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, Peter, James, and John. I'm sorry, I got them backward. Andrew, Peter, John, Jonathan, James, and then Hannah. And so James is our youngest son. He was born at how many weeks, Debbie?
29. Just shy of, almost 30.
Yeah, born just shy of 30 weeks. So he was
2 days.
He came along pretty early, and at any rate, one day we were bathing him. I think I was bathing him maybe in a sink at the house. How old was he?
Oh,
Pretty young, months.
months.
Yeah, less than a year old.
Like 4 months.
Probably so, something like that.
3 months, 4 months.
Anyway, I was bathing him, and the next thing I know, I look down and he's got this hair wrapped around which finger was it, little finger or one of his fingers?
His pinky finger.
Pinky finger.
Anyway, he's got it. By the way, if you can't tell, we got a room full of babies running around here. He had his hair wrapped around his pinky finger, and I said, "Oh, David, look here, you got a hair wrapped around his finger." And I tried to get it off and couldn't get it off, and she tried, I think, and then we messed with it for a while. And
Alex tried.
Alex was there that weekend. That was the same weekend we told about the other day when the dude got hit by the train.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were in the emergency room with James on Saturday, I think, and the dude got hit by that train on Sunday. You know what Alex said? "I'm going to wait a few months before I come see y'all again. I'm worn out." But anyway, Alex goes with us to the emergency because we can't get the hair. This doesn't even sound possible. But we could not get the hair. We could not get the hair off of his finger.
And then it started turning blue.
Yeah, that was
And then it started turning black. And
Yeah.
like, I think we need to go to the emergency room.
Debbie's like, we need to go to the emergency room. And you know, man, you couldn't even see the hair.
No.
The hair got so tight around him. It kind of, I don't know if it cut through his skin or at least it was so tight that the fatty layer of skin was covering it up. You couldn't even see it. So we take him to the emergency room, and then when we get there, it's like a miracle, because man, there's nobody in the emergency room. We were the only ones there, and so man, they see him. They said what problem? I said, well, we got a hair wrapped around his finger. They're like, say what?
Well, they thought it was extremely emergency because he had we still had him on the monitor.
Yeah, that's right.
The breathing monitor. So we walk in with this baby on a breathing monitor, and they're like, well, what's all going on?
Yeah, of course. I mean, he was on his monitor for a year because of his
Apnea.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, they jumped real quick. Man, we said, well, he's got a hair wrapped around his finger. And they're like, say what? And so they all take him back into this room. And I think because seriously, nobody was in the ER. Nobody. It was empty. And I've never been in that ER before or since when it was empty. Every ER staff there came into his room. They're like, you got what going on? And so they took him back, and they didn't even take him to the triage. They took him straight back into a room. And then they got this microscope and looked at it under microscope, and this dude had these little bitty tweezer things. And how long did it take him to get that off?
About 30 minutes.
Man, they worked on it. He said, whoever did this tied the most perfect slip knot I've ever seen, man. I'm like, are you for real? They finally got the hair off of his finger. And what did that guy say about your hair?
He said that I had very strong hair. He said, you know that phrase of you could drag her around by her hair.
He said, you really could drag your wife around by her hair. I said, I don't think that'd go over real well. But anyway, he said, well, she got some stout hair, man. Anyway, what was really crazy about that whole deal is when we got ready to leave, they never had even processed us. He didn't go through the triage. They didn't do any paperwork. They didn't get names and take all that stuff down. And so there was nothing official. There's no record this ever happened because when they finished, they said, did anybody do the paperwork and like insurance and all that stuff? And everybody looked around. They just shrugged their shoulders. Said, y'all going out of here. Okay. So anyway, thank you, Lord, for a free hair removal. Free hair removal at the emergency room. Anyway, yeah, that's not how I went bald, by the way. But
no. Well, I mean,
I sort of think some of these stories might be part of the reason why I went bald. But I think it's probably more hereditary than that.
Well, I mean, and also you've had batteries blow up in your face, shot yourself with nail guns.
We've had a few experiences. Somebody asked me the other day, how do you have so many things happen to you? I said, I do stuff. I do stuff. This guy that asked me this, he don't do stuff. He said, how does all this stuff happen? I said, man, I go outside on occasion.
Yeah.
I do stuff, and when you do stuff happens.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll acknowledge it. More happens to some people than does happen to some other people, but
that
at any rate.
Definitely the case.
Well, where are we going from here?
I don't know. No, I'm just I'm racking my brain over here. I was trying to stall till Elena could get back, but
We had one of our
guests,
contributors, had to step aside for a minute. She's coming back to the table. I'm gonna mess with her, and so we'll open it up for her in just a minute.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw maybe a dangerous question.
Do it.
Uh oh. Marlana said, "Do it."
Of course.
So.
Is it for me?
No.
Oh.
Well,
bummer.
yeah, maybe I ought to make it for you.
Go ahead.
What's the most embarrassing moment? What are you laughing at already, Drew? What's the most embarrassing moment?
If you phrase the rest of this question like I think you're going to, I know what her answer is going to be.
Be
Well,
quiet.
I wish I knew how you thought I was going to phrase it. What's the most embarrassing moment you've had that Andrew created?
No.
No? Okay, what's a better way to ask that?
No.
Okay,
I'm blank.
clearly he doesn't embarrass her much. I'm not even going to ask my wife that. She's already thinking about things she can't probably say to you guys right now.
We could ask what's the most embarrassing or awkward moments you've created for us.
No, I don't think we want to ask
He
that.
said for us.
For us.
Oh, for you? Oh,
Yeah.
for the two of you guys?
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, well, go ahead. What's the most embarrassing moment
Go
I've
for
created
it,
for the
babe.
two of you, Andrew and Marlana?
Go for it, baby.
Hold on. But what were you going to say?
All right, you answer, and then if it's not the same,
Y'all got to make sure you get in that mic loud enough because I want these people to hear whatever
Yeah.
you're fixing to say.
You go with yours.
When your father told everyone at our wedding that I was 12.
Oh, well, no, it started before that. So, Dad, while Marlena and I were still dating, Dad took a new church where he's at now at Redwater. So, he moved from the church that basically I grew up in from 9 to 18. So, he pastored for almost 9 years at Shiloh Baptist Church out in Genoa, Arkansas, to Redwater, Texas, where he's at now. And when he introduced the whole family, Marlena was there with me, and he introduced her as my 12-year-old girlfriend. Keep in mind, at the time, I was 18.
And I was not 12.
Yeah. I've always given her a hard time. Matter of fact, I started to ask you a minute ago about your memories at this cabin. We're all sitting at the table in our cabin on the Little Missouri River, and I started to ask Marlena about her memories here at the cabin. And I was going to say, go ahead.
I have one very distinct memory. I think we were all up here with my family and y'all. And we were down where the swing used to be, like a little ways away from the cabin, down by the river.
Uh-huh.
It was you, my dad, me and Andrew and I were just talking. We weren't actually an item, so to speak. And he started chasing me. Andrew started chasing me.
Wow.
No recollection. Yeah, but I remember that. And then I also remember riding a four-wheeler before that. All the trees were down
Yeah.
back and forth up the driveway.
And that was before the bridge was out, so we could go across the river.
Yeah, and we got to do that. And we've been hunting up here. Andrew and I got to hunt in the buddy stand one time.
So you've been coming up here since you were 12, though, right?
A little bit younger.
Actually, yeah.
Oh, so I always give Drew a hard time. Well, and his brother too. I've said the same thing about Scarlett because they're a couple years younger. What's the age difference between you guys?
2 years.
2 years. And hey, Scarlett, how many years? What's the age difference between you and Peter? 3 years. Okay, so I'm giving both these guys a hard time. They start dating these younger girls, and I said, "Hey, isn't she like 12?" He said, "So she's graduated up now." I said, "What are you, 13 or 14 now?" Anyway, it's just a little fun thing. I don't remember telling everybody at your wedding you were 12.
Yes.
No,
yes,
it
you
wasn't.
did.
It wasn't
Yes.
the wedding. Well,
Yes,
it may have
you
been
did.
the wedding. But
Yes,
the one I
you did.
remember, the one I remember is and when you introduced her as my 12-year-old girlfriend at the new church, and everybody knew I was 18. So everybody and their uncle that was there at that church started coming up and asking me, "Is she really 12?"
And then proceeds to invite all of us up to the stage.
Oh yeah. I thought we were on the stage when he said that,
Oh,
but
probably.
yeah. But anyway, no, yeah. I had for weeks at that church. I had people coming up to me asking me, "Hey, you do know you can get in trouble for dating 12-year-old as 8 and when you're 18?"
Man, they were giving you a hard time.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, anyway, good memories.
Mm-hmm.
Good memories.
Go ahead.
Of the 12-year-old. Go ahead, Marlana. You got something you want to
I
say?
got a memory of the cabin of almost dying. I thought I was going to die anyway. Andrew and yes, we were up at the cabin after we were married, and we were swimming in the river, and there's a gravel bar a little ways away, and Andrew had swam over to the gravel bar several times before I did, or before I attempted to anyway. And I thought surely I would make it over there because I'm a stronger swimmer than Andrew, so I thought. And the current, I jump in, and the current starts taking me, and I know I had just a look of horror on my face because I did not know what was about to happen. So it takes me, I don't know, to the other side of the river a little ways. I don't know how else to describe that.
Yeah.
And so Andrew floats down the river and meets me. Well, the current is so strong we can't just swim back up. So we had to get out on the other side of the river, walk up to the gravel bar where we could get across, and then come across the gravel bar, get back in the water, and float back down to the side we started on.
Mm-hmm.
But I was scared to death.
Yeah.
And we saw a snake skin, and I don't do snakes. So,
So you saw a snake skin?
yes, but I don't do snakes at all.
Just a snake skin. While
Yeah.
you were in the river, you saw just a snake
No,
skin.
no,
Oh,
when
okay.
we were walking on the what is that?
Across the river.
Just across the river when we were walking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the story of me almost dying or feeling like I was going to
Feel like
die.
you almost
We were
died
at the
that
cabin.
Oh my word! Yeah,
Hold on.
yeah.
Now Andrew's version.
No.
So three sides of the story. Remember?
Okay.
No, well,
okay.
I'm just going to add a little flavor to that because we were up here by ourselves.
Add a little flavor. What's your last name? Go ahead, son.
We were up here by ourselves. It was just her and I. It was before we had kids, and we were, coming up here, spend some time together. Well, I decided it'd be best just to not wear anything when we went swimming.
to spare you.
Oh, well, it's
Or
the
them.
top 10 most embarrassing moments told from the pulpit by the guy on the other side of the table. You can't really.
Wow.
And those of you who have gone to any church that he's pastored probably can name my top 10 most embarrassing moments right now. Anyway.
I'll need a list later.
I can with all the elaborated versions of it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Anyway, I didn't have any clothes on, not even shoes.
Now, when was this again? When was this?
A while back, about 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yep, about 3 years ago.
Anyway, when we got across to the other side, it's in the middle of the summer, so there's briars and brambles and all kind of stuff. So I'll leave it to your imagination exactly how high they were to be the most inconvenient. But it was not fun, and on top of that, like Marlana alluded to, she is deathly afraid of snakes. And we seen that snake skin, and I was trying all I could do not to go, oh, this looks cool. I wonder what kind of snake it is, because I love looking at snake skins. I think they're cool. I'm trying to find something to back one of my bows with. I think it'd look cool to put a snake skin on the back of it. So I'm always looking around for snakes. So I'm like, I really hope she don't see that.
Right.
But anyway, we finally managed to make it across. Ezekiel, you got something you want to say?
He wants to tell a story in the microphone.
Oh, he does.
All right, take
does
it
he?
away, buddy. Tell him your name.
Tell them all about it. Tell them what's your name? What is your name? What's your name, grandson number one? Oh, what you got to tell us? Tell us.
My name is Deacon Jeremiah Weed.
Is that right? Do you have a story you want to tell?
Mm-hmm.
What about it? Tell us all about it.
I gotta tell y'all.
Well, tell us.
I gotta tell y'all what it is.
Okay, we're waiting.
It is when we and Dad went hunting.
When
Well,
you
tell
and
us.
Dad went hunting?
Me and Dad went hunting with my. I don't know how to do.
You're doing it.
You're doing it. Here, look.
You're doing it. You're doing
You
it,
wanna listen to
man.
yourself? All right.
Go on,
talk
tell the
into it.
story. Oh, it's when you and Zeb went hunting.
Say yes, sir.
Yeah, too.
Okay.
All right. What happened when y'all went hunting?
What'd you go hunting for?
Because it was fun.
Because it was fun. So Drew said, "What'd y'all go hunting for?" What you were asking him, the squirrel hunting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Because it was fun. That's what we went hunting for."
Did y'all go squirrel hunting or deer hunting or what?
Are you done?
We did do that.
You did?
You did.
Did you have fun?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm glad you had fun, Ezekiel Jeremiah Weed. So, you guys, this is Andrew and Lana's first son. He is 3 years old. And, man, he is already jumping into this storytelling art. Well, so a minute ago, I don't know if we were through telling the story about swimming across, but mind me in just a minute, and we may finish up with one more quick story about the boat that got away. Anyway, hey, Ezekiel, thank you for telling us the story. You got something else to tell us? Do you have something else to tell us?
Yeah.
Well, say it quick. Our hearers want to know what you got to say, man.
Tell us.
What's your favorite? Whose cabin is this, by the way? Whose cabin is this?
Papa got a honey cabin.
Pawpaw's and Honey's cabin. He calls Miss Debbie Honey. All right.
All right. All right.
Well,
Before we hop to that next story, I was just gonna say, since we got both of them here, kind of go through some of what Mom and Lena have been doing up here in the kitchen.
oh, well, that's a good idea. That's a
Yeah.
good idea.
So, Lena, you start. What'd you end up with the other day?
So my cousin lives about 20 minutes. Oh, Ezekiel says I need to wear the headphones.
Okay.
Because
Does
Ezekiel
this
knows,
make it where
man.
you can talk in the microphone?
He knows what's going on.
Yeah, that's how you talk in the microphone.
All right, Mama's gonna talk. Okay. You got me.
Hey, we told y'all this would be a noisy one, and we're liking it.
Okay, so my cousin lives about 20 minutes from the cabin, so we went over to her house the other day, and she's unloading 50 25-pound boxes of tomatoes. And so we get there, and we just immediately start helping her unload the trailer of the billions of tomatoes. And by the time we left with 12 boxes of tomatoes, 12 25-pound boxes of tomatoes, so 300 pounds of tomatoes.
300 pounds of tomatoes.
And these were all gifted to her, so she gifted them to me. So I called Mom, or Debbie, and was like, hey, we need to can these tomatoes because they're starting to go bad. They're starting to stink. But you can cut out the good parts, right? And so she comes up the next day, or that night, whatever it was. I don't remember. This week, we canned all the tomatoes, and Ezekiel's giving me a really cute grin. I got distracted. And we canned the tomatoes. What did we get?
26 half pints of Rotel.
Yep.
Now I popped them.
Hold on.
19 pints of diced tomatoes.
Yes. And 19 quarts of
Sauce. Tomato sauce.
And 4 quarts of tomato juice. Which, super exciting. We had some spaghetti tonight made with our homemade tomato sauce, pasta sauce. And it was actually pretty delicious. So that was fun. That, Mom has hopes of expanding the cabin, and we consider that our first canning session in what will soon be, Lord willing, the canning kitchen. So, me and Mom, we like to can. Neither one of us were able to have gardens this year, but the Lord provided those tomatoes, so we wanted to be good stewards of what we were given.
That's right.
And preserve them. All right, back to you guys.
And I had just opened
hold
my
on.
last can of Rotel that I canned last year. So it was awesome. I got to get my pantry stocked back up.
And I was able to learn how to can something that I did not get to can last year, which was diced tomatoes. I have not tasted them yet, but I'm super excited to try them. All right. Back to the guys.
All right. I just wanted to give them a chance to talk about what they've been doing, kind of give a picture of how we kind of do things in this family of sharing traditions, but not only sharing traditions, but it's a good picture of discipleship, of how don't want to say older generation, we'll say wiser generation.
There you go. That's better. That sounds a lot
That was wiser.
That was wiser.
The wiser generation teaches the next how to do skills like that. And Lena's got to add
I have to add something. So, the last time Mom and I were able to can in person together was 7 years ago?
7 years ago.
7 years ago when Andrew was actually in boot camp. We got to can. That was my very first time to can. And then last year I had a small garden and was able to can via video chat with Mom because I had no idea what I was doing. But absolutely had a blast.
Oh, yeah. And we do that kind of stuff all the time. Getting the family together and doing things that we enjoy. And not everybody enjoys the same things, obviously, but those are good opportunities to take to teach younger people, other people, your viewpoint on life and what you do in your daily walk. And it's a demonstration of how you walk with Christ on a daily basis. You have anything to add, Mom?
Oh, well, just living life together. Like this morning, Scarlett was over at the house, and I had gathered the cream, so I showed her how to make butter. And one of the things she said, "How do you know when it turns?" I said, "Oh, you'll know." And so she watched it. It's like she could tell when it turned and when the butter broke loose. And then as I was rinsing the butter, I said, "You know you had to rinse butter?" She said, "No." So it's just neat to live life and together and be able to share life together.
And to learn. And the story Dad was going to tell just a minute ago, I got to learn. I got to learn through his painful experience.
Well, sometimes we learn
Things the hard way.
Intentionally by discipling type teaching like Debbie does, and then sometimes we learn by example of what not to do by stupidity like I can do.
Mm-hmm. On a for real note, you won't believe the number of times I've been doing something with friends of mine, and I'll say, "Whatever you do, don't do X, Y, and Z." And they'll go, "Well, Reed, how do you know don't do X, Y, and Z?" It's like, well, let me tell you. One time, me and Dad.
Well, you know, I don't know. It's hard to learn sometimes. It's amazing to me how God speaks, and He'll speak to you in a number of ways. You know, He speaks via His Word most clearly.
Mm-hmm. And
so if you want to hear the voice of God, you definitely need to know the Word of God. And so when people say, I need a word from God, I need to hear from God. I was just going to tell you, if you need to hear from God, the first thing you need to do is get in the Word, because the only way you'll recognize if it's God or not is if you know the Word well enough to know if what you think God is saying to you lines up with what the Scriptures say. So God will speak to you through the Word. God will speak to you through circumstances. God will speak to you through anything He wants to speak to you through, but He'll often speak to us through other people. But it's taken me a long time to learn, I'm still learning, is that often God's voice sounds a whole lot like my wife's voice. Whether I like it or not. Some days I like it, some days I do not.
This particular day.
This particular day, I wish I would have listened.
So at the cabin, we live on the part of the river where it rises and falls according to when they generate electricity at the dam that's upriver from us. And so we never know when that's going to happen because they're not on a schedule. And so usually during the summers when we would come up here early on. So we thought we were familiar with the pattern. However, we had not been up here long enough or enough times to realize.
When she says we, she means I thought I was familiar with the pattern, but she's being gracious.
So this particular day, Todd had been out on the boat, and he had left the boat down on the gravel bar. And I said, don't you think we need to bring the boat up here in case the river rises? He said, oh, it's not going to rise. It won't rise till till tomorrow afternoon because it's already done that. I said, okay, are you sure? Yes, I'm positive.
So she's looking at me like it's my turn to tell the rest of the story.
Well,
because
so at 5 a.m. in the morning when I wake up, I looked out the door. I said, oh, that doesn't look good. I said, Todd, I think the river's rising. I think it rose. And he said, no, it's not time yet.
Yeah, so anyway, I look out. It might have been a little later than 5. I don't know what time it was. It was pretty early.
It was like 5:30.
And this was June.
5:36 maybe.
And it was abnormally cool for a June morning. I specifically remember that. Because when she said, the river's up, I was like, nah, I can't be. And I looked out the window and I thought, oh, crud. Which I really thought, at any rate. I looked down, I thought, oh my gosh, and the last thing she said last night was, you need to raise it. And I made a big deal about, no, it's not necessary, because it was hard to get that boat up that high. Anyway, I run out, I've got my shorts on, and I grab my river shoes, stuck them on real fast. I run down the edge of the river, the boat is gone. I mean, the river's up, boat's gone. It's my dad's flat bottom boat. When I get down the water, I look to the left and I look downstream, and just as far as you can see down the river, there's a bend, and I don't know how far it is, maybe 200-300 yards. There's a bend in the river, and there's a tree that had fallen in the river, and I can see the boat is hung on a limb on that tree. And I thought, oh, thank you, Jesus. But I could also see that it was just about to break free and go on down the river. So, man, I take off flying through the woods in just my shorts and a pair of river shoes, and I'm flying through the woods, and I get to this spot where I realize, okay, I can jump off. Well, the river was up. I mean, it didn't just come up a little. It was up enough that it was like a bluff. The water had come up to where this one part of the bank was like a bluff, and I realized it's high enough I can dive in. So I run through the woods, I jump off the embankment, and I dive in so I can get to the boat, because I've noticed now it is completely broken free. It's about to go down the river. Mm-hmm. When I hit the water, it was abnormally cool that morning. And this water comes off the bottom of a lake. When they generate electricity, it comes off the bottom of the lake through this dam. And so, man, I hit it's cold.
Oh, yeah, it's always about 10, 15 degrees cooler than any other water.
At a minimum. Man, that morning it was like 140 degrees colder than the air. As soon as I hit the water, it felt like I hit a block of ice, man, and it sucked the breath right out of me. And I'm like, oh, so I come up, and I'm thinking, man, I wish I'd listened to her. I get to the boat. And it's just broken free. First of all, I'm a little bit concerned I'm going to get hung up in the tree or under the boat because the current's sweeping me so fast. And so I had to try to go around the boat. When I get around the backside of the boat, I grabbed the boat, and it swung around. And then I thought, I got to get to the shore. And I'm trying to hold the boat with one hand. It's a 14-foot flat bottom boat. And, man, I'm paddling with one arm while I'm holding the other. I'm dog paddling, and I'm wearing myself out. I'm just about to pass out when my knee hit something. And I thought, what is that? And when when it hit it the second time, I realized what it was. It was gravel. Man, the whole time I've been swimming like a madman trying to get to the shore. The water I was in was about 2 feet deep. And anyway, so I just stood up and, oh, thank you, Jesus. And I caught my breath and finally got the boat back up here. And once again, she was right. And so, on a number of occasions since that day, when my wife has had a thought or a suggestion or an idea, she might look at me on occasion and say,
Do you remember the boat?
why are you laughing so hard?
Because I remember you telling me you had an argument with the Lord in that water about, great, now she's going to think that she's right and I'm wrong and I should have listened to her. And that the Lord got on to you because we had already had this discussion that, you had maybe had some issues about not listening to some things that I say.
Oh, my word, and it is so right, and so I did confess a while ago, I didn't mean this in any sarcastic or any other way, just a very real way, that often the voice of the Lord sounds a whole lot like my wife. Now, I'm going to have to make this disclaimer because a bunch of you wives and husbands, if you're listening to this, I tell you what's going to happen, son.
I told you so.
No, yeah, there's going to be some wives go, honey, I think you need to listen to this particular broadcast. By the way, it blows my mind how many women listen to this thing. We really thought we were going to tell guy stories, but man, women listen to this stuff. And these guys, some of you guys, if you're listening right now, you're like, oh, why did she want me to listen to this? Now you know. Now you know. At any rate, hey, look, he gives them to us for a reason. And, man, we could tell a lot more stories. At some point, we need to tell the story about when the boat got away the next time. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so lots of weird stuff has happened. But for right now, hey, I want us to do one more thing before we get off here. And I realize, we've just told a bunch of stories today and talked about, I think the main thing that's came out of this in the last few moments was just this discipling thing and hearing the voice of the Lord and relationships and how they work, and us recognizing God's hand in those relationships, even when we're not planning. Debbie is really good at what she said a while ago, just life, and you brought it up. Teaching through life circumstances, and some of that is planned discipling kind of stuff, and some of that's just taking advantage of the moment when you recognize there's a moment, a teaching moment. And of course that's what her whole life has been about, just teaching all of you guys at any rate. But so those are man, beautiful things for us to try to emulate and to be a goal for us. I do, since we've got Scarlett sitting here, and she's looking at me like, oh, Lord, what's fixing to happen? A few minutes ago, I was thinking about when I asked you guys about favorite memories or whatever, you talking about that stuff. Scarlett, you got a good memory of being here at the cabin.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about it. Tell us about the significant moment you had right
Yeah.
here.
New Year's Eve.
We have to remind her.
New Year's Eve for my honeymoon.
Let's do the
Yeah,
Year's Eve.
yeah.
We don't want
happy.
any info about the honeymoon.
Honestly,
Dad's
I
not on
forgot
the
about
mic
the
right
New
now,
Year's
but
Eve
he's
one.
saying, yeah.
I forgot about the New Year's Eve one, but Peter proposed to me on the front steps and then got mad that I didn't get off the porch to do it underneath the stars, but that's a whole other thing.
One of these years we're gonna have to start videoing this thing because Dad tries to get me going on stuff. He'll point at me and do the whole roll film thing. And I don't know what he's talking about.
We only have 2 microphones right now that are of a decent quality to record this stuff, and so we're swapping microphones back and forth. And I was just visualizing. I wasn't here, but now Debbie, you were here when that took place. So,
I was writing my book.
oh yeah, Debbie was working on a book that she's writing. She's just about to release, and we'll tell you some more. About Yeah. She's been working on it for,
3 years.
let's see. Oh, I was going to say 62 years, and we're only
Well,
52.
Is
Yeah.
that
I'm a whole life.
Yeah. And the majority of that book, no, that's not true. I started to the majority of that book you wrote sitting right here at this cabin at this table, but a good bit of
good
it.
foundation of it, yes.
Yeah, you did. But she was here working on the book
The
that
32 revisions of it have been over the last 3
right.
years.
So we're in the process of finishing the editing process for that, and we're just right down to the last couple of chapters, and so that'll be out pretty soon. She was working on that here when Peter and Scarlett came up on New Year's Eve, and Scarlett was there on the porch with Peter, and so he wanted you to get out under the stars, huh? You weren't having it.
I wanted a picture underneath the sun, and then we were going to do a picture off of the porch.
Uh-huh. Oh. And you didn't know the proposal was about to take place, huh?
I knew it was coming because I was working at Outback at the time, and my friend, she walked up to me and she was like, you two are going to be taking a trip and he's going to propose. So, of course, I asked him about it. He's like, I don't know what she's talking about. What trip? And we get here. He's wanting to take pictures. He's off the porch and on the porch, or I want pictures on the porch. After we take the picture, I move forward to look at the picture because Mom was taking them on her phone. And I turn around, and Peter's on one knee with the ring and everything, and all he could get out was, do you want to make a deal?
That's all he could say. You want to make a deal?
He said that he had this whole thing lined out, and that's all he could get out.
Well, needless to say, man, there's Hannah is laughing. Our daughter Hannah is across the room laughing hysterically, like she thinks that is hilarious that Peter has this whole planned moment and then it draws a total blank. Well, lots of memories that we have right here, and we could probably go on doing this forever. We'll do this again sometime. I've rather enjoyed this.
Yeah, we'll have to do it at some point.
We'll do this. We'll do this again sometime soon. Trust me, this is just the beginning. This is just scratching the surface. We could tell the snake stories. We could
probably have about, I don't know how many episodes about embarrassing moments from the pulpit.
Oh,
yeah, that's a whole nother conversation for another time, please.
yeah.
Funny stories.
Yeah, good stories, funny stories,
hold on.
accidents, some of them, most of them. Go ahead.
Embarrassing moments for us or for him or both?
Yeah, both.
I don't think he ever gets embarrassed.
Oh,
Oh no, yeah.
I recall one that was pretty funny.
I most definitely can get embarrassed, because some of that stupid stuff that I do is really not intentional. And there have been times when something fell out of my mouth and I thought, oh my word, that did not sound right. But anyway, lots of stuff. Let's don't get started on that.
The download of a junkie.
These guys are like, some of them already know. Some of them are thinking, I was there when he said, whatever, at any rate. Hey, you guys, we appreciate all your support, and we're just excited to get to do this with our wives.
Yeah, I was going to announce, for those of you who may enjoy country music, the littlest brother James, the same one who had the hair around his pinky, is dropping his first album. He's got a song out right now. Which one is it, Mom?
I Better Go.
I Better Go. And he's dropping a whole album on, I don't know when we're going to drop this episode, but it'll be
August the 13th.
August 13th. Wow. So look for him. James Reed, YouTube Music, iTunes. Hit it up and let us know what you think.
Spotify.
You can find it on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube Music. I think he said all that before. You can pre-purchase the album now if you want to, or you can look it up for just to check out the one song, "I Better Go," by James Reed.
The album's called Fall Together.
The album is called Fall Together. Yeah, you'll see a picture of this goofy-looking kid in front of our barn. Yeah, James will listen to this episode. Yeah, with a cowboy hat. And anyway, it's really cool.
He almost looks like Chris Ledoux in that photo.
Man, don't be cussing Chris Ledoux like that. Yeah, Jonathan did the artwork. So look, I appreciate you throwing that out there, son. We'll talk some more about that soon. We may make an episode with James so he can talk about that some, and you guys can check it out. Look, dude, whoever you are in France. I was just thinking about who's going to hear this and see that wouldn't normally even know about James's stuff. Dude, if you're the guy in France, check out our. We want to figure out who this guy in France is. It's automatic though. I've already figured this out. The reason why he's the first one to download every single time, he's like within the first 3 every single time we drop an episode. The dude from France downloads one. The last episode we had, so far we had 5 countries listening in. So, man, we'd love to hear from some of you guys that are international, and we want to know why in the world you're listening to this stuff. At any rate.
Free entertainment.
Yeah, free entertainment.
Man.
Hey, the main thing is we want to share that living is real, Jesus is real, and when we walk with him, it just affects our everyday life. And I believe that he gives us these stories so that we can have the opportunity to have a platform to talk about Christ and to talk about what he's done for us. And we just want to remind you what we do in every episode. Hey, the reason why we're called Redneck Redemption is because we're just some guys that got redeemed by the grace of God through the blood of Jesus. Mm-hmm. And so the basis, I was in the jail last night with your pawpaw, and your pawpaw and I went to jail together last night. we had these T-shirts.
Not every day you get to hear your dad tell you that.
Our ministry is called Not Ashamed Ministries, and Debbie and I have we established that thing a long time ago. But when we walk through the jail, we have these shirts on that say Not Ashamed Ministries on the front, but on the back it says we have good news. And last night I was walking down the hall, and your papa had just went to another floor, and one of the guys said, "Hey man, why does your shirt say you have good news?" One of the guys from behind the bars as I'm walking down the hall. And I turned around and I just said, because, man, we've got some good news. Did you know that the word gospel means good news? And the gospel is this. There really is a God. We're really not him. He really does require perfection, and none of us measure up to the perfection that he requires. But God loved the world so much that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish but have everlasting life. Every one of us in this jail, whether we're on that side of the bars or this side of the bars, are lawbreakers as far as God is concerned, but Jesus is the only one that never broke a rule, never broke a law, perfect, sinless, spotless, and he died on our place on the cross so that we could be forgiven. God's not required of us to be, he's not expecting us to be perfect. He gave us the law so we could know we could never keep it all. It's to show us, hey, we need help outside of ourselves. Jesus is that help. We want you to know that the scriptures say in Romans 10:9, if you'll confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. And later on in Romans 10, it says whoever calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Hey, look, if you want to talk with somebody about doing that, man, we would encourage you to shoot me an email. We do this every episode, but shoot me an email, brot@windstream.net. It's BROT, not B-Rot. Brot at windstream.net. And hey, we'd be more than happy, and I can forward. If you get a message for Andrew, by the way, I want to say this: he didn't say anything about bows this whole time. Did y'all notice that?
Mm-hmm.
But I had to bring it
He's
up.
itching over here.
I had to bring it up. It'll come in the next episode, I'm quite sure. Hey, thank you guys for being a part of this, and thank you, ladies, for just jumping in and having fun with us. Y'all let us know what you think about that. If you want to have them again, some of you guys who maybe know them, send us an email and say, look, I would like to hear their perspective on this event in your life. That should be interesting.
And I already know probably what's coming is they want to hear Lena's perspective on the first podcast events.
Oh, yeah.
I think that would
sure.
be neat, actually.
Yeah.
We need to do that. That
Yeah.
would be a great thing for us to do at some point in the future. All right, thank you guys for listening. Till next time,
Yeah.
live redeemed.